Despite the fact that men usually have to make the first move, the courtship process always involves the girl sending non-verbal signals of interest in order to move things forwards. So to make it easier for you guys to spot when someone's interested in you, I'm going to go through 13 of the most common courtship gestures used by women, as outlined in the Definitive Book of Body Language by Alan and Barbara Pease. Number 1 is the head toss and hair flick. This is usually one of the first gestures a woman will use when she's around a man she's attracted to. The head is flicked back to toss the hair over the shoulders and away from the face, presenting a clearer view of it. Sometimes, even women with short hair will use this gesture. Just like when a man starts touching and adjusting his hair, this is a sign that they care about their appearance and want to look good for the person they're talking to. This is a gesture that also works on an instinctive level because it's an excuse to expose the armpit and allow the release of pheromones. This is one of the most obvious and well-known gestures. In fact, it's so well known that it's been used extensively in advertising for hair products for years. The message these commercials are trying to get across is that their products can make you more attractive, so it makes perfect sense that they'd include an easy to spot signal of attraction. Number 2 is pouting. The logic behind this one is that exaggerating the size of the lips draws attention to a difference between men and women. Presence of testosterone during puberty causes boys' bone structure to be dramatically altered. They develop a stronger protruding jawline, a larger nose, and a more prominent forehead. Girls' bone structure, on the other hand, remains relatively unchanged, with a more childlike shape and extra subcutaneous fat, particularly around the lips. This makes larger lips a symbol of femininity and attractiveness because of the size contrast with men's lips. This is why injecting collagen into the lips is a popular cosmetic treatment, and the less permanent version of that is to exaggerate the size of the lips by pouting, or even something as subtle as keeping the mouth slightly open. Number 3 is self-touching. The subconscious mind gets people's bodies to act out the things it wants. If someone is repeatedly touching or stroking a part of their own body, such as the neck, arms, or thighs, it could be a sign of subconscious desires. Women are more likely to do this than men due to their increased number of nerve endings, leading to greater touch sensitivity. Number 4 is holding a limp wrist. The limp wrist is attractive to men on an instinctive level because it's a physically submissive gesture. Having a limp wrist makes someone appear physically weaker and is another example of a gesture that highlights the differences between men and women. Seeing this gesture makes men feel comparatively strong and powerful, leading to a spike in testosterone and an increase in attraction. For number 5, we have the most suggestive gesture so far, fondling a cylindrical object. Whether it's lipstick, one of her own fingers, or the stem of a wine glass, the implications of this one are clear. This gesture is likely to be subconscious and subtle, unless you're dealing with someone so forward that reading body language wouldn't be a concern. Like number 4, number 6 is also about the wrists. This time it's exposing them. Repeatedly positioning the underside of the wrists towards someone is a display of interest because the skin on this part of the wrist is one of the most sensitive parts of the body. It usually happens alongside other hand gestures when talking, or when picking up a small object. It's unclear whether this behaviour is instinctive or learned through observation, but it definitely works on a subconscious level. For number 7, we have the sideways glance over a raised shoulder. This is another more obvious gesture, since it involves making a deliberate decision to look at someone when not facing them. It involves looking over the shoulder for just long enough to initiate eye contact before looking away. This creates a mischievous feeling of peeping for both people involved, and also highlights the shape of a woman's body because of the angle it's positioned at. Number 8 is rolling hips. For childbearing reasons, women have wider hips than men. This means that compared to men, they walk with an accentuated hip roll that highlights the pelvic region. Men physically can't walk like this, so it's become another powerful visual signal of femininity. I'd advise against reading too much into this way of walking on its own. While it's possible that a woman has decided to walk in a more feminine way around a man she's attracted to, it could also just mean that the physical structure of her body makes it comfortable to walk that way. Continuing on the theme of hip gestures, number 9 is the pelvic tilt. Medical research has shown that a woman in excellent health, with the genetics most suitable for bearing children, will have a waist to hips ratio of 0.7. This means the waist is 70% the size of the hips, forming what's known as an hourglass figure. From an evolutionary perspective, the extra fertility of this body shape gives it an extraordinarily high level of adaptive value, and also meant that the men who most attracted to this body type throughout history were the most likely to pass on their genetics, with the end result being that the men alive today are drawn to this hip to waist ratio on a powerful instinctive level. The way a woman highlights this ratio is simple. All it takes is tilting her pelvis to the side while she stands. Number 10 is one that at first doesn't sound intuitive. It's placing a handbag in close proximity to a man. This works because it's a personal item that some women end up viewing as an extension of themselves. This is more of a signal of trust and familiarity than pure attraction, meaning that moving a bag a large physical distance away when someone arrives could be a sign of emotional distance. 11 is the knee point, where one leg is tucked under the other and the knee that's on top is pointed at the person she's most interested in. This is a relaxed type of body language, used to take the formality out of a conversation and make things more personal. Number 12 is the shoe fondle. This is a fairly obscure one, and can leave men feeling unsettled without them understanding why. It involves dangling a shoe off the end of the foot to display a relaxed and playful attitude. And finally, for number 13 we have the leg twine. This is a conscious action used to draw attention to the legs. It involves pressing one leg firmly against the other while sitting, to give the appearance of a high level of muscle definition. This is generally agreed upon by men to be the most appealing sitting position a woman can take. As a final note, I'd like to mention the importance of reading gestures in clusters. Most of these things when taken on their own could easily mean nothing, and you should look for multiple signals when trying to read body language accurately. Since reading body language incorrectly can lead you into some pretty awkward situations, you're definitely much better off understanding how to interpret various signals when taken together. Thanks for watching. Body language is a subject I have a strong interest in, so I'm sure I'll be doing similar videos in the future. So if you're interested in seeing